I just saw that article published in New York Times titled, "Forget about muscle mass as you age, focus on strength. When it comes to longevity, bigger is not always better. Aim for everyday strength." And to be honest, I am disappointed by that title, and I'm a bit annoyed because it was co-signed, maybe co-authored even by some very big names in the fitness space, especially in the women fitness space. And I think this is misleading at best, but also a language that creates quite a lot of friction and confusion. So let me explain. I work as a coach, and my daily bread is to help women who are already committed to building muscle and building strength do that better, so that they can actually have a better return on their time and energy investment when they go to the gym. And those women are already in the higher level of, like, when you look at the population, they're already more consistent, they're already stronger, they already have more muscle mass than the average women out there. And so when we work with those women, we see three things. And this is where I feel like this article is really falling short and disappointing, or at least the title. And so what we see first is it takes a lot of effort to build both strength but also muscle mass. And then having, that kind of message to tell them to focus only on one and not the other aspect, when we very well know that they are connected. The connection between muscle mass and strength is very, very strong. It's almost impossible to have an increase in contractile tissue, i.e. in muscle, without having any kind of strength gains, right? You have more strength, more muscle, you can contract harder and more, you can produce more force, and this is going to lead to more strength. But this is something that takes a lot of effort to achieve. And instead of saying like only focus on that side and then forget the other side, that's the side, by the way, that we've been telling you for the last 5 years. That is really important, and to really focus on, it's the organ of longevity. Muscles are the organ of longevity. But now just forget about it and only focus on getting stronger. I feel this is like pretty terrible advice, because of the effort it takes to achieve that, then the encouragement should be like, go for it. Like, go for both. Really try to reach both of those goals. That's one thing. Then the other thing is, most women, even the ones who are already, working out more than the average population, they tend to be under-muscled. And, when we think about longevity and having strength and great metabolic health and, great bone health and having great mobility in the sense of being able to move and maintain that kind of independence, then most women start with too little muscles already. And so the advice should be to try and maintain that muscle, but also to build some more as long as you're in a position to do that. Because otherwise you are just declining, and you're already starting like below what will be ideal or optimal for longevity, which is kind of the umbrella under which this article is presented. And then, the last thing is, how are you going to train for strength if you have very little muscle mass? Because the type of training that they're referring to, more power-based, more explosive, that sort of things, it's not going to do much if you have very little muscle. And so instead of that, spending some time, investing some time, even with machines. So I love barbells, and I'm biased toward barbell works, but using machine is going to be great because it is going to help people who have maybe a bit less time to develop the skills of learning how to do great squats, great bench press, great deadlifts, building that functional strength. If you get super strong in a leg press and you can build muscle by doing this, this is 100% going to translate into daily strength. And this is not something that should be kind of taken away or dismissed as being less of, not as effective as, just because the purpose is only to build muscle. And then instead of doing this, then trying to build daily strength. What does that even mean? How is that measured? Because daily strength, you don't need a lot of strength. If it's just about like carrying your groceries around, or putting your coat on and that sort of things, then if you are not working in a company who helps you move pianos, or big furniture, then daily strength requirements are not super duper high. And so, yeah, this is something that I find very disappointing, because then it's the women that comes to me and hear that kind of message, they just end up being confused, because they're like, oh, I want to build strength, but I don't care about my muscle. And then you have to clarify what that means and how to get that outcome, but also without the other one. And this is just like, yeah, it is confusing and it's not really effective. And so instead, I feel like the message should be really like, hey, we've been just like brainwashing you with muscles in the last 5 years, and we've seen how much of a great job you've done, going to the gym, being consistent with it, trying to build that muscle, and now we feel like you have even more in you, and try to go beyond just a muscle, but try to add the strength component to that. Try to tip your toes into, working your way up to a heavy single or a heavy double, and really going for maximum amount of strength. Maybe experience a bit with like power training, with some throws, with some jumps. Those are all great things, but they should not come at the expense of the other part of the equation that's also very important. So please, next time when you write that kind of article, then come up with a better title.